The modern world owes its foundations to the minds of medieval knights. Many of the tools and systems we take for granted, from mechanical clocks to early banking, were born from their need to solve problems both on the battlefield and in daily life. By the end of this journey, you will discover 22 knightly inventions and how their hidden legacy still shapes your life today. We will uncover why a simple metal loop changed warfare forever and how a knight's helmet might have lit the way for modern headlamps. What part of your own daily routine do you think connects back to a knight's ingenuity? Knights were far more than just warriors on horseback. Their world was a complex web of military duty and administrative responsibility, placing them at the very heart of medieval problem solving. As both commanders and estate managers, they faced a relentless stream of challenges, from organizing the defense of a castle to overseeing the harvest on their lands. This dual role made them natural innovators, constantly seeking new solutions. They did not work in isolation, often commissioning skilled blacksmiths, carpenters, and stonemasons to bring their ideas to life. This collaboration fused practical battlefield experience with the finest craftsmanship of the age, while knowledge flowing from places like Moorish Spain and the Byzantine Empire introduced new concepts in mathematics and engineering. Every invention was born from a pressing need, a direct response to the problems of survival and efficiency. These breakthroughs were not left to chance. They were carefully documented in detailed manuscripts and architectural drawings, creating a lasting record of their ingenuity. Seeing knights in this light, as pragmatic inventors steering technological progress, completely changes our understanding of the medieval world and sets the stage for the remarkable devices they created. That iconic image of the knight in shining steel is more than just a symbol of chivalry. It is a masterpiece of problem-solving. The shift from chainmail to full-plate armor was a direct response to a terrifying new reality on the battlefield: the increasing power of crossbows and longbows. Knights needed better protection, but simply adding more layers of chainmail would have made them too heavy to move. The solution was a revolutionary design of articulated steel plates. Each piece was carefully shaped and hinged, working together like a sophisticated exoskeleton. This was not a clumsy metal shell. It was a custom-fitted suit that distributed its weight evenly across the entire body, from the shoulders down to the ankles. A knight in well-made plate armor could run, mount his horse without assistance, and even perform rolls and cartwheels, a fact that surprises many people today. This agility was as crucial as the protection itself. Historians like Kelly de Vries point out that this innovation dramatically reduced combat fatalities from piercing arrows and crushing blows, turning battles into more survivable tests of skill and endurance. Creating such armor pushed medieval technology to its limits. It required advanced forging techniques, often using water-powered hammers to shape the steel and precise tempering methods to harden it without becoming brittle. This was not just blacksmithing, it was early materials science, setting a standard for personal protective gear that echoes in everything from a modern firefighter's turnout coat to the body armor used by police and soldiers today. The knight's suit of armor was, in essence, the first truly integrated personal protection system, a life-saving invention born from absolute necessity. While plate armor defended the knight, another invention gave him the power to attack with overwhelming force. A simple metal loop hanging from the saddle, the stirrup, quietly engineered a military revolution. Before its widespread adoption, a cavalryman was essentially a mobile platform, clinging to his horse with his legs while trying to swing a weapon. The introduction of the stirrup, which historians like Lynn White Jr. argue arrived in Europe through knightly contacts, changed everything. It provided a stable, braced foundation. A knight could now stand up in his saddle, locking himself into position. This was not just about staying on the horse, it was about harnessing its raw power. The true transformation came with the couched lance. By tucking the long spear under the arm and bracing his feet firmly in the stirrups, the knight and his charging horse became a single, unstoppable projectile. The force of the impact was no longer just his own strength. It was the combined mass and velocity of man and beast, focused into one lethal point. This tactical shift made the knightly charge the dominant weapon on the battlefield for centuries, the equivalent of a medieval tank division. The design itself evolved for both function and endurance. What began as a basic leather or wood footrest quickly became a forged metal stirrup, often reinforced to withstand immense pressure. The broad, flat base distributed the rider's weight and reduced leg fatigue, allowing knights to remain effective during the grueling marches of long military campaigns. You can see the direct descendant of this knightly tool today in any equestrian sport. The modern riding stirrup is a direct evolution of that medieval design, a testament to its perfect, enduring form. From deciding the fate of empires to enabling the grace of dressage, this simple invention reshaped both combat and culture, proving that the smallest change can have the most monumental consequences. The sheer power of a trebuchet could shatter castle walls and break sieges that had lasted for months. This was not just a bigger catapult, it was a completely new kind of machine, refined by knights who needed to overcome the formidable stone castles of their era. Earlier catapults relied on the twisted tension of ropes, but the counterweight trebuchet harnessed two far more reliable forces, gravity and leverage. Its design was brilliantly simple. A massive weight was suspended from one end of a long pivoting beam, while a sling holding a projectile was attached to the other. To fire it, crews would winch down the weighted end, raising the projectile end high into the air. When they released the mechanism, the heavy box of stones or lead would plummet downward. This violent drop whipped the long arm upward and around, using incredible leverage to launch a heavy stone in a high, arcing flight over defensive walls. Historians like Jim Bradbury note that knights and their engineers became masters of optimizing these giants. They carefully calculated the weight of the countermass, the length of the throwing arm, and even the size of the projectile to achieve the perfect balance of distance, accuracy, and destructive power. A well-tuned trebuchet was a terrifyingly precise instrument of war. The legacy of this knightly artillery extends far beyond the medieval battlefield. The fundamental principles of counterweights and leverage it demonstrated became foundational to the development of all later mechanical artillery. More profoundly, the act of calculating trajectories and forces for the trebuchet pushed early thinkers toward new understandings of motion and physics. This siege engine, born from the necessity of breaking stone walls, inadvertently helped build a bridge from medieval warfare to the scientific breakthroughs of the Renaissance. A single crossbow bolt could shatter the world of knightly combat. This weapon, capable of punching through armor from a safe distance, did more than just change tactics. It began to level the very playing field of warfare. For the first time, a common foot soldier with minimal training could stand against and defeat a fully armored knight, a military reality that had been unthinkable for centuries. The crossbow democratized the battlefield, shifting the balance of power away from sheer, expensive martial prowess and toward strategic application of technology. Yet, in a fascinating twist, knights did not simply reject this threat. They adopted it, studied it, and set about making it better. They enhanced its draw mechanisms, creating systems of levers and cranks that allowed for a much more powerful draw without requiring the immense strength of a longbowman. This pursuit of greater power and accuracy made the crossbow a devastating tool not only for war but for hunting large game. Historical records like the Assize of Arms detail how crossbows became a standard, integral part of medieval armies, their deployment carefully regulated. This widespread use sparked intense ethical debates, with some in the church even attempting to ban its use against Christians, considering it too cruel and impersonal a weapon. But the ingenuity of its design could not be suppressed. The crossbow's internal mechanism was a marvel of early engineering. Its ratchet and pawl system for drawing the string and its precise trigger release represented a leap in mechanical thinking. This exact combination of a locking mechanism and a controlled release became the direct mechanical ancestor of every firearm trigger that followed. The quest for a straighter, more powerful flight for the bolt also drove innovations in precision manufacturing, establishing principles that would later be essential for all manner of ranged tools. In the end, the knightly refinement of the crossbow is a powerful lesson in technological adaptation. By embracing and improving a weapon that challenged their own dominance, knights inadvertently accelerated the very innovations that would eventually reshape the world, proving that progress often comes from confronting the tools that threaten to make you obsolete. Beyond the threat of the crossbow, knights engineered entire landscapes for their own defense. Concentric castles rose as stone mountains of layered protection, a brilliant answer to the problem of limited manpower. Unlike a single towering wall, this design created a deadly maze for any attacker. Picture an assault on a fortress like Crac des Chevaliers. Invaders would first have to breach an outer wall, all while exposed to arrows and stones from the taller inner wall behind it. Even if they succeeded, they found themselves trapped in a narrow killing zone between the two defenses, completely surrounded and vulnerable from every direction. This was defense in depth, a strategic masterstroke. As historians including Thomas S. Bridge explain, this allowed a small, disciplined garrison to hold out against a much larger force, controlling the battlefield from a series of ever more secure positions. Every architectural feature served a grim purpose. Murder holes in the ceilings of gatehouses allowed defenders to drop rocks or boiling liquids on those below. Arrow slits were not just narrow windows, they were carefully angled to give archers a wide field of fire while presenting an almost invisible target. The entire structure was a machine for protection where form and function were perfectly fused. The principles behind this medieval fortress are startlingly modern. The idea of creating multiple, independent layers of security is the bedrock of everything from high-security data centers to international airport perimeters. We still use the concentric concept not with stone walls and arrow slits, but with electronic fences, surveillance zones, and access control points. The knight's castle was more than a home. It was a three-dimensional chessboard, and its strategic logic for layered defense continues to protect us in ways its builders could never have envisioned. Amidst the dust and din of battle, a silent language of symbols decided who lived and who died. This was the heraldic system, a knight's brilliant solution to the chaos of medieval warfare. When a knight was fully encased in plate armor, his face completely hidden, how could anyone tell friend from foe? The answer was emblazoned on his shield, his surcoat, and the banner flying above him. His unique coat of arms became his face, a vibrant, instantly recognizable identity in the heat of combat. This was far more than personal decoration. It was a critical communication system that organized the battlefield, dramatically reducing the tragic accidents of friendly fire. Stephen Fryer, a noted heraldic scholar, explains that this visual language allowed commanders to track the movements of their own troops and assess enemy formations at a single glance. The system grew so sophisticated that it needed official record keepers, the heralds, who meticulously documented every design in detailed rolls of arms. These ornate manuscripts were, in effect, the first sophisticated databases, cataloging the identities of thousands of knights across Europe. The rules of heraldry were as precise as any modern code. Specific colors, known as tinctures, carried distinct meanings: gold for generosity and white for peace. The ways a shield could be divided, through methods like partition and impalement, created a grammar for this visual language, allowing for complex statements about lineage and alliance. This need for clear, regulated identification fostered the entire culture of chivalry, turning individual knights into recognizable representatives of their family's honor and their lord's cause. The legacy of this knightly invention surrounds you every single day. The fundamental principles of heraldry, using simple, bold, and memorable symbols to convey identity and values, are the direct ancestors of modern corporate logos and national flags. Every time you recognize a brand by its symbol alone, you are using the same visual shorthand that a medieval soldier used to find his lord on a smoky battlefield. From the chaos of combat to the order of a family tree, this system of symbols proves that the human need for clear identity is a powerful force for innovation, one that continues to shape how we see our world and our place within it. A knight's sword was far more than a simple bar of sharpened steel. It was a constantly evolving instrument, its form reshaped by the brutal logic of the battlefield. As plate armor became more sophisticated, the heavy, cleaving blows of older broadswords began to fail. Knights needed a new kind of blade, one that could find and exploit the tiny, vulnerable gaps in an opponent's defenses. The answer was the longsword. This was a weapon of remarkable balance and grace, designed for both a powerful cutting edge and a lightning-fast, precise thrust. Its blade tapered to a needle-sharp point, allowing a skilled warrior to slip the tip through a visor's sight or into the unprotected armpit. But this new shape created new problems. A longer, stouter blade risked being too heavy to wield with speed. The solution was found in the forge. Blacksmiths employed advanced tempering techniques, heating and cooling the steel in precise ways to create a blade that was hard enough to hold a razor edge, yet flexible enough not to shatter on impact. They also hammered a groove known as a fuller down the center of the blade. This was not a blood gutter, as some stories claim, but a brilliant piece of engineering that removed excess weight without weakening the sword's spine. Experts like John Clements point out that mastering such a versatile weapon required years of dedicated training. Techniques for its use were closely guarded secrets within smithing and fencing guilds, passed down from master to apprentice. The sword itself became a powerful symbol of status and skill, a mark of a knight's profession and his refined, deadly artistry. This relentless pursuit of the perfect weapon yielded innovations that extend far beyond the battlefield. The longsword's ergonomic handle, shaped to fit the hand, and its counterweight pommel, designed for perfect balance, established principles of tool design we still use today. The careful weight distribution of a modern chef's knife or the comfortable grip of a carpenter's hammer are direct descendants of that knightly focus on function and form. In refining their most personal weapon, knights did not just advance the art of war, they helped write the first chapter in the story of ergonomic design, proving that the quest for a better tool often leads to improvements that touch every part of our lives. A knight's connection to his horse was a partnership that defined his very existence, and it was refined with the subtle pressure of a spur. This was not a tool for crude punishment, but a sophisticated communication device. With a gentle press against the horse's flank, a knight could signal a complex command, directing his powerful warhorse to turn, stop, or surge forward without needing to tug violently on the reins. This precise control was the bedrock of effective cavalry, allowing tightly packed formations of knights to move and strike as one coordinated unit. The evolution of the Spurs design tells a story of increasing refinement. The earliest versions were simple metal spikes, but these gave way to the rolled spur, a rotating star-shaped wheel with dull points. This brilliant innovation allowed the knight to apply a clear, rolling cue that the horse could feel distinctly, but it minimized any risk of cutting or injuring the animal. It was the pinnacle of functional horsemanship, a perfect balance between authority and care. Equestrian historians note that spurs quickly became powerful symbols of the knightly class itself. Their design grew increasingly ornate, crafted from silver and gold and engraved with family crests. The specific style of a knight's spurs could denote his rank and experience, making them a visible badge of honor. To lose one's spurs was the ultimate mark of disgrace, while earning them was a rite of passage. This relentless drive for better control did not end in the medieval period. The fundamental principle of the spur, a reliable mechanical interface between human intent and a vehicle's power, echoes in surprising places. The toe clips and clipless pedal systems used by modern cyclists are direct descendants of this knightly tool, designed to create a secure and efficient transfer of energy. From the flank of a warhorse to the sole of a cycling shoe, the spur's legacy is a testament to how a knight's attention to the smallest details of partnership and control ultimately helped pave the way for advancements in how we all move. Beneath the great helm, a knight's head was protected by a far more personal defense, the mail coif. This hood of interlinked steel rings was a marvel of flexible protection, a direct answer to the constant threat of slashing swords and axes on the battlefield. As part of a larger, standardized system of mail armor, the coif represented a leap forward not just in personal safety, but in the very way knights equipped themselves for war. They drove the mass production of these garments by pioneering drawn wire techniques. Instead of painstakingly forging each individual link, blacksmiths could now draw heated iron through a tapered hole to create long, uniform wires, which were then coiled and cut into thousands of identical rings. This method transformed mail from a luxury item for the elite into durable, repairable gear for a fighting force. Historians like Ewart Oakeshott highlight how this standardization created a truly modular armor system. A knight could wear a full hauberk, a long shirt of mail with a coif for his head and mittens for his hands, or mix and match these pieces with the newer plate armor as the situation demanded. A scout on a risky patrol might prefer the quiet flexibility of a full mail suit, while a knight in a pitched battle would integrate his coif and mail standards beneath his plate armor to protect the vulnerable joints at the neck and shoulders. This was equipment designed for the reality of campaign life, where a damaged section of mail could be repaired in the field by simply riveting a few new rings into place. The coif itself, with its close fit and seamless integration into the broader armor system, established design principles that endured for centuries. Its focus on full cranial coverage without sacrificing mobility or vision directly influenced the shape of military helmets for generations, from the sallets of the Renaissance to the steel pots of the 20th century. You can even see its legacy in the protective gear of today, from the padded, close-fitting hoods worn by fencers to the hard hats and integrated neck protection used on construction sites. The knight's coif was more than just a metal hood. It was a testament to the power of standardization and modular design. proving that the most effective innovations are often those that prioritize reliability and adaptability in the face of chaos. The couched lance was not merely a weapon, it was a complete tactical system. A knight would tuck the long, heavy shaft firmly under his arm, locking his body into a single, rigid unit with his charging horse. This transformed the lance from a hand-held spear into a fixed, directed projectile. The entire combined mass and velocity of rider and steed focused into a single, devastating point of impact. This technique, perfected in the violent rehearsal of tournaments, became the defining feature of the medieval cavalry charge, a hammer blow that could shatter enemy lines in an instant. The weapon itself evolved to serve this brutal purpose. It was no longer a simple pole. It gained a vamplate, a wide circular handguard that protected the knight's gripping hand from enemy weapons and from the jarring force of the hit. The shaft was carefully tapered and balanced to prevent it from drooping under its own weight during the charge, allowing for a precise strike even at a full gallop. Historians of the joust, like Tobias Capwell, note that mastering this weapon required immense skill and years of practice, a martial art that balanced the knight's life on the edge of control and catastrophe. The legacy of this knightly innovation extends far beyond the tournament field. The tactical doctrine of concentrating force into a single, overwhelming thrust directly informed the cavalry charges of later centuries, from the winged hussars of Poland to the Napoleonic Wars. Even after the lance faded from the battlefield, its design principles endured. The long, balanced poles used by modern athletes in pole vaulting, or the reinforced lances used by firefighters for controlled demolition, operate on the same fundamental ideas of leverage and directed kinetic energy. In harnessing the raw power of a charge, knights did not just create a weapon, they codified a physical principle that we still use to push the limits of speed, strength, and structural power today. That great helm was a stark choice between sight and survival. To a knight on a battlefield, a single sword blow to the head could be the end of everything. So they chose the steel cylinder, a helmet that encased the entire skull, offering near-total protection at the cost of a severely restricted field of view. You did not wear a great helm to see the world, you wore it to stay alive within it. This design was forged in the brutal crucible of the Crusades, where European knights faced opponents with different fighting styles and weapons. The response was a helmet of layered, reinforced plates, often with a flat top to deflect crushing blows. Small ventilation holes called breaths were drilled in precise patterns to allow for air without creating a fatal weakness. It was hot, it was claustrophobic, but it was a mobile fortress for your head. The evolution did not stop there. Armorers, driven by knightly demands for better performance, began to innovate. The fixed front plate gave way to a pivoting visor, a revolutionary change that allowed a knight to raise his face protection for air and a full view during a lull, then snap it shut before a charge. This single improvement transformed the great helm from a static shell into an adaptable piece of equipment. Insights from armor specialists reveal how this relentless focus on full cranial coverage set a standard that lasted for centuries. The great helm's basic principle, that the head must be completely encased in a rigid structure, directly influenced the closed helms of the Renaissance and even the combat helmets of the First World War. You can see its legacy on any construction site today in the hard hat that protects a worker from falling debris. It is the same idea, a rigid shell deflecting danger from above. The story of the great helm is a lesson in pragmatic trade-offs. Knights were willing to sacrifice comfort and even some awareness for the one feature that mattered most, staying alive. This willingness to experiment, to take a good idea and make it incrementally better, is the very engine of innovation. It proves that sometimes the most important advances are not about seeing more of the world, but about ensuring you live to see another day. Even the most brilliant armor would be useless if a single blow transmitted its full force directly to the body. This is where the knight's most personal layer of defense came in, the humble gambeson. This thick, quilted jacket was the unsung hero of a knight's kit, a masterclass in absorbing impact. Worn directly against the skin beneath the heavy metal plates, its primary job was to cushion the wearer from the brutal shock of a mace strike or the wrenching jolt of a lance hit. Without this padded buffer, the armor itself could become a deadly conduit, breaking bones and causing massive internal injuries even if the steel plate remained unbroken. But the gambeson did more than just soften blows. It solved the constant problem of chafing. The intricate layers of linen or wool, often stuffed with scrap fibers called tow, created a smooth, forgiving barrier that prevented the hard, often sharp-edged metal plates from grinding against the knight's skin during hours of movement. Historical records show that while knights relied on it for comfort and survival, the gambeson was also a great equalizer in medieval warfare. For a common soldier who could never afford a full suit of plate, a sturdy, well-made gambeson offered a surprisingly effective defense against slashing swords and arrows, making decent protection accessible to a much wider part of the army. The genius of its design lies in the quilting itself. By stitching through multiple layers of fabric and stuffing, medieval armorers created thousands of tiny, isolated pockets of air. This structure trapped body heat for insulation in cold weather, but it also distributed force across a wide area, turning a concentrated impact into a manageable push. This very same principle of using trapped air and layered materials for protection and warmth is woven into the world around you today. The modern bulletproof vest uses advanced fibers, but its layered, shock-absorbing construction is a direct descendant of the gambeson's quilted logic. You can even feel its legacy in the insulated winter coat you might wear on a cold day, its padded sections working on the same ancient principle of using trapped air to create a protective, comfortable barrier. From the battlefield to the high street, the knight's simple padded jacket proved that the most profound innovations are often the ones you never see, quietly working to make the difference between injury and safety. When a sword could not cut, a knight would crush. The mace was the ultimate answer to the problem of plate armor, a weapon designed not to slice but to deliver a devastating shock directly through the steel. Its power came from a brutally simple innovation, the flanged head. These protruding ridges were not merely decorative, they were force concentrators. Upon impact, the energy was not spread across a flat surface but focused into a series of sharp, punishing edges. This allowed the blow to transfer its kinetic force directly through the rigid armor plate, causing the metal to deform inward and transmit that brutal shock to the body beneath. It was a weapon of pure physics, turning the very strength of the opponent's defense into a vulnerability. Knights favored the mace for this precise reason. It bypassed the need to find a gap in the armor and instead made the entire suit a potential point of failure. As arms historian Robert D. Smith notes, the design was so effective at managing blunt force trauma that its principles echo through the centuries. The flanged head of a medieval mace is the direct mechanical ancestor of the modern polygonal baton used by police and riot control units. Both operate on the same fundamental idea, using shaped surfaces to focus impact energy in a way that is debilitating without always being lethal. But the legacy of this knightly tool extends beyond combat. The mace was a marvel of ergonomics long before the word existed. Its handle was carefully shaped to fit the hand, often with a flared base or a leather wrap to prevent slipping during a powerful swing. The weight was distributed along the shaft with a heavy head and a counterbalancing pommel, creating a tool that felt alive and responsive in the wielder's grip. This relentless focus on how a tool interacts with the human body established core principles that inform the design of everything from a carpenter's hammer to a firefighter's axe. In seeking a more efficient way to break armor, knights inadvertently unlocked secrets of force management and material durability that would eventually be used to build, protect, and serve. A castle gatehouse was more than an entrance. It was a carefully managed checkpoint where the simple act of crossing a ditch became a life or death decision. The drawbridge mechanism turned this threshold into a dynamic barrier, a wooden road that could vanish in moments. Knights and their engineers did not just build static walls, they designed systems that controlled time and space itself. To raise a drawbridge was to sever a castle from the outside world, transforming a bustling gateway into an impassable vertical wall. This was achieved through a beautifully simple application of physics. Inside the gatehouse, a massive wooden beam, the counterweight, was attached to the bridge with heavy chains or ropes run through a series of pulleys. When guards released the locking mechanism, the weight of the counterbalance would drop, pulling the bridge upward with a force far greater than any group of men could muster. It was leverage on a grand scale, a perfect marriage of brute strength and mechanical grace. This system was rarely used in isolation. It was often paired with a moat, forcing attackers to first cross the water and then face the rising bridge, all while exposed to arrows from the battlements above. Historical engineers point out that the precision required for these wooden giants to slot perfectly into the gatehouse archway reveals a deep understanding of balance and structural integrity. The legacy of this knightly innovation is written across our modern landscape. The same principles of counterweights and pulleys that once raised a wooden bridge over a moat now lift entire sections of steel to allow massive ships to pass beneath movable bridges in cities around the world. You can even see its direct descendant in the security gates that slide vertically to protect a warehouse or a parking garage, a silent guardian using ancient physics for modern protection. The drawbridge was the ultimate expression of controlled access, a knightly solution that proved the best defense is not always a permanent wall, but a door you can choose to close. Across the chaos of a medieval battlefield, a flash of color and symbol could mean the difference between a rally and a rout. The tabard was that vital signal, a sleeveless garment worn over armor that solved two critical problems at once. It provided a knight with an unmistakable identity and a basic layer of protection from the elements. Made from sturdy linen or wool, this simple piece of clothing was emblazoned with the knight's full coat of arms, turning his entire torso into a walking banner. In the dust and confusion of a melee, a commander could spot his own men at a glance, their loyalty declared by the vibrant heraldry on their chests and backs. This was not just about personal glory, it was a system for managing the fog of war, a mobile, personal flag that organized the chaos into recognizable units. Textile historians like Margaret Scott point out that the tabard's design was brilliantly pragmatic. Its lack of sleeves meant it did not hinder the movement of armored arms, and it could be easily donned or removed over even the most complex suit of plate. This combination of high visibility and unimpeded utility made it an indispensable part of a knight's kit. The legacy of this garment is woven into the fabric of modern life. The tabard is the direct ancestor of the military uniform tunic, the heraldic surcoat evolving into the standardized jackets and insignia that build esprit de corps in armies around the world. But its influence extends far beyond the military. Think of the reflective safety vests worn by road crews, the identifiable smocks of retail workers, or the colored jerseys of a sports team. Each of these is a direct descendant of the knight's tabard, using color, symbol, and simple design to instantly communicate role, allegiance, and team identity. From the muddy fields of medieval France to the bright lights of a modern supermarket, this knightly innovation proves that the most effective solutions are often the simplest, merging what you need to say with what you need to do in one enduring piece of cloth. A knight facing a fully armored opponent needed more than a single trick. The poleaxe was his answer, a brutal masterpiece of versatility engineered for the chaos of close-quarters combat. Its long wooden shaft gave him reach, but the true genius was in its modular steel head. One side featured a heavy, blunt hammer face, perfect for delivering concussive blows that could dent plate armor and stagger an enemy. The opposite side held a sharp axe blade, capable of hooking a shield or delivering a cleaving strike, and crowning the top was a sturdy spike, a lethal point designed to punch through the gaps in armor at the visor or the armpit. In the hands of a master, the poleaxe was a complete martial arts system, allowing a fluid transition between crushing, cutting, and piercing attacks in a single, continuous motion. This was not wild swinging, it was a deadly science. Martial arts researchers studying surviving fencing manuals reveal that mastering this weapon required immense skill and specialized training. Schools of combat flourished where masters taught intricate techniques for dismounting a cavalryman, unbalancing a shielded foe, or exploiting the split-second opening in an opponent's guard. These techniques were not just passed down orally, they were meticulously documented in detailed illustrations, creating the first comprehensive textbooks on biomechanics and combat physics. The legacy of this knightly tool is one of pure, brutal efficiency. Its design philosophy, combining multiple functions into a single, balanced implement, is echoed in the modern firefighter's Halligan bar, a tool used for prying, striking, and forcing entry. The strategic thinking behind the poleaxe, the idea of a single tool for multiple, unpredictable emergencies, directly informs the design of today's emergency rescue equipment. In creating a weapon that could adapt to any threat, knights demonstrated a core principle of innovation, that the most powerful tool is often the one that gives you the most options. Sand could measure time where water would freeze and sundials failed. The hourglass became the knight's silent partner in managing the unrelenting pressures of a siege or the strict schedule of monastic life. Adopted from maritime traders who relied on them at sea, knights quickly saw the value of a timekeeper that worked in any weather, day or night. Its operation was a lesson in elegant physics. Two glass bulbs connected by a narrow neck held a precise amount of fine sand. The force of gravity pulled the grains from the top chamber to the bottom in a perfectly consistent flow, creating a reliable interval, whether it was 30 minutes for a guard watch or 1 hour for a prayer session. Horologists note that this portable, dependable tool revolutionized military coordination. Commanders could now synchronize troop rotations, plan sorties, and manage sentry duties with a new level of precision, ensuring a castle's defenses remained alert and organized around the clock. This was not just about warfare. The hourglass brought a new rhythm to daily life within a castle's walls, structuring everything from a blacksmith's work shift to the timing of court proceedings. Its widespread use by the knightly class helped standardize the very concept of measured time for civil society, moving beyond the variable hours of the sun. The legacy of this simple device is all around you. The same principle of a material flowing through a constriction to mark a fixed duration is the heart of the modern kitchen timer, the countdown clock in a sports arena, and the productivity apps that segment our workdays into focused intervals. In embracing and popularizing the hourglass, knights demonstrated a profound truth that sometimes the most powerful innovation is not creating something entirely new, but recognizing the potential in an existing tool and weaving it into the fabric of daily life, turning the steady fall of sand into the steady march of progress. The Quillen dagger turned a knight's last line of defense into a deadly opportunity. When a sword was lost or the fight descended into a desperate grapple, this was the tool that decided the outcome. Its defining feature was not just its sharp point, but the pronounced crossguard known as quillons that curved outward from the hilt. In the split second of a melee, a knight could use these quillons to catch and trap an opponent's blade, hook a shield, or deflect a thrust, creating the vital opening needed for a lethal counterstrike. This was not a wild stabbing instrument, it was a precision tool for the most intimate and brutal range of combat. Knights drove its evolution, demanding more than a simple guard. They refined the quillons into complex curved shapes that offered superior protection for the hand, and some advanced models even featured early locking mechanisms. A quick twist of the wrist could snap an opponent's sword blade or wrench the weapon from their grasp entirely, a disarming technique that could end a fight without a killing blow. Arms experts like John Waldman trace a direct line from these knightly innovations to the specialized daggers of the Renaissance, such as the sturdy rondel, and further to the modern combat knife. The principles of a protected hilt and a blade designed for both defense and offense are foundational to military and tactical knife design to this day. But the dagger's influence is even more personal. Its ergonomic hilt, carefully shaped to fit the palm, and its perfectly balanced weight distribution set the standard for how a handheld tool should feel, an extension of the wielder's own intent. This relentless focus on control and efficiency in the most stressful situations established ergonomic principles that resonate far beyond the battlefield. The comfortable, secure grip of a chef's knife, the balanced heft of a carpenter's chisel, even the intuitive design of many everyday tools, all owe a debt to the knight's meticulous refinement of his final resort. In perfecting a weapon for survival, they inadvertently crafted a blueprint for safety and efficiency in our hands, proving that the attention paid to the smallest details in a moment of crisis can shape the world for centuries to come. Even in total darkness, a knight needed to see his work. The Candlestick Helmet solved this with a simple, brilliant adaptation, a small metal bracket welded directly to the brow of the great helm. This fixture held a single candle, its flame casting a focused pool of light exactly where the knight was looking, turning his own head into a mobile lamp. This was not a ceremonial oddity but a deeply practical tool for the grim realities of siege warfare. During underground operations, like mining beneath a castle's walls, or while standing a long night watch in a pitch-black corridor, this hands-free illumination was invaluable. It allowed a knight to keep both hands on his weapon or his tools while navigating treacherous, confined spaces. Historical accounts from castle garrisons describe how these modified helmets were essential for inspecting fortifications after a bombardment or for reading maps and orders during nocturnal campaigns. The same principle was later adopted by miners and explorers, who fixed candles to their leather caps, creating the earliest form of a headlamp. This knightly innovation directly bridges the gap between the battlefield and the workshop, proving that a simple modification for visibility could illuminate the path for future generations. The fundamental idea of mounting a light source on the head for hands-free operation is a direct ancestor of the modern hard hat lamp used by every miner, caver, and repair technician today. From the flickering candle on a steel helm to the powerful LED beams that now cut through the dark, this knightly invention showcases how a straightforward solution to a knightly problem can cast a long and enduring light. A single archer bent over his bow to nock another arrow was a vulnerable target. The Pavai's shield transformed that moment of exposure into a protected ritual. This was not a shield carried on the arm for personal defense, but a large, portable wall that a knight could deploy to safeguard the archers under his command. Planted firmly in the earth with its own built-in prop stand, the pavise created an instant barricade, allowing a line of bowmen to reload and aim from behind near total cover. These shields were often masterpieces of the woodworkers' and painters' art, their surfaces adorned with religious symbols or the coats of arms of the noble house they served, turning a functional piece of equipment into a banner of resilience on the battlefield. Military historians note that the widespread use of pavises by knights and their retinues dramatically increased the effectiveness and survivability of missile troops. A unit of crossbowmen who required time to winch back their heavy strings could maintain a continuous, disciplined volley from behind this mobile fortress, turning the tide of a siege or a pitched battle. The design was a marvel of practical engineering. The shield itself was constructed from lightweight but tough wood, often covered in leather to prevent splitting, and its folding prop stand meant it could be carried on a soldier's back during a march and then snapped into a stable position in seconds. This concept of a rapidly deployable, personal barricade did not fade with the age of plate armor. The tactical thinking behind the pavise, protecting a specialist while they perform a delicate task, directly influenced the development of later mobile cover used in urban warfare and siege operations for centuries to come. You can see its direct legacy in the modern ballistic shields used by law enforcement and tactical teams today. Those large, transparent shields are the spiritual successors of the medieval pavise, providing the same essential function, creating a safe space for a professional to do their job under threat. From the muddy fields of the 14th century to the concrete canyons of a modern city, this knightly invention proves that the best defense is often a shared one, a collaborative system where protection enables precision. A knight's stability in the saddle was the difference between a victorious charge and a fatal fall. The war saddle, with its distinctively high cantle, engineered that crucial stability into the very seat of power. This was not a simple leather seat, but a rigid wooden frame, expertly shaped and reinforced with metal, that cradled the rider securely between a high pommel in front and an equally high backrest behind. This structure created a locked-in position, anchoring the knight firmly in place and allowing him to brace for the tremendous shock of impact when his couched lance struck an enemy. Without this secure foundation, the full force of the charge would have thrown him from his horse. Equestrian historians point out that this design was a complete reinvention of the rider's relationship with the horse. It transformed the act of riding from a constant battle for balance into a stable platform for combat. The high cantle provided essential lumbar support, drastically reducing the fatigue a knight experienced during long marches or the jarring chaos of a melee. This preservation of energy and focus was as vital as any piece of armor. The legacy of this knightly innovation is felt every time a rider mounts a horse today. The deep seat and supportive cantle of a modern Western saddle, designed for long days of ranch work, are direct descendants of the medieval war saddle. The same principles of security and balance inform the design of dressage and jumping saddles, where a close contact feel and a secure seat are paramount for precision and safety. In their relentless pursuit of battlefield advantage, knights perfected an ergonomic interface between human and animal, a design so effective that its core principles continue to define comfort and control in the equestrian world centuries later. A knight's throat was a fatal weakness, a thin line of skin and sinew between life and a swift end. The gorget was the unwavering answer to this vulnerability, a curved steel collar that shielded the neck from a slashing blade or a thrusting dagger. This was not a large piece of armor, but its strategic placement made it one of the most critical. As plate armor evolved, the gorget became a standardized component, a perfectly articulated ring that protected the collarbone and throat while allowing the head to turn freely. It was a masterclass in defending a vital zone without sacrificing the mobility necessary to survey a chaotic battlefield. Armorers often turned these functional pieces into badges of honor, engraving them with intricate patterns or a knight's personal heraldry, transforming a simple lifesaver into a mark of status. The legacy of the Gorget did not rust away with the Age of Knights. Its fundamental purpose to protect the neck and upper chest seamlessly transitioned into civilian life. In the 17th and 18th centuries, the military gorget evolved into a decorative metal collar worn by officers, a symbolic vestige of its armored past. More practically, that same protective logic found a new home in the modern world. The high collars and protective bibs worn by workers in metalworking, machining, and forestry are the direct descendants of the knight's gorget, designed to stop flying debris or sharp fragments from causing a catastrophic injury. This tiny piece of armor highlights a profound knightly principle: that innovation in personal protection is often about identifying the smallest, most critical point of failure and engineering a solution that endures for centuries. From the battlefield to the factory floor, the Gorget story is one of silent, steadfast guardianship. Even the most brilliant battlefield invention was useless if the fields back home lay fallow. The ingenuity of knights extended far beyond the castle walls, deeply embedded in the soil of their own estates. As both warriors and landowners, they possessed a unique perspective, understanding that military strength depended entirely on agricultural wealth and the efficient management of resources. This dual role drove them to adapt and refine tools that would transform daily life for everyone. They took the principles of battlefield logistics organization, efficiency, and the effective use of labor and applied them to the age-old challenge of farming. The humble wheelbarrow, for instance, was not their invention, but knights championed its use on a massive scale. A single worker with a wheelbarrow could move more earth or harvest than several laborers carrying loads by hand, dramatically increasing the productivity of building projects and fieldwork. Similarly, improvements to the heavy plow, with its moldboard that turned the soil to create a deep furrow, allowed for the cultivation of richer, wetter soils that had previously been untamable. This was agricultural engineering, driven by the knightly need to feed large households and garrisons while generating surplus wealth. Historians like Joseph Gies highlight how these knightly estates became unexpected hubs for technological experimentation, bridging the gap between the medieval and modern eras. The systematic management of crops, livestock, and forests on these lands established early models for sustainable land use and economic planning. This broader impact reveals a profound truth. The knight was not merely a destroyer on the battlefield, but a catalyst for societal progress in times of peace. The legacy of this applied ingenuity is all around us, in the very foundations of our food systems and the logic of our supply chains. From the organization of a medieval manor to the global agricultural networks of today, the knight's role as an innovator proves that the most enduring victories are often won not with a sword, but with a smarter way to work the land. Our journey through these 22 medieval inventions reveals a truth far beyond the battlefield. These knights were not just warriors of legend, but pragmatic innovators whose creativity in the face of necessity laid foundations we still walk upon today. Every piece of their world, from the simple metal loop of the stirrup that revolutionized combat to the complex counterweights of the trebuchet that harnessed the laws of physics, was a solution to a pressing challenge. Their legacy is not merely a collection of artifacts, but a living testament to the power of adaptation. The Gambeson taught us how to cushion a blow, its principles now embedded in modern body armor. The heraldic system gave us a visual language that evolved into the logos and flags that define our identities. The relentless pursuit of a better sword or a more secure saddle established the very principles of ergonomic design, ensuring the tools we use today feel like natural extensions of our own hands. This knightly spirit of problem-solving, of looking at a limitation and engineering a way through it, continues to inspire modern engineers and designers. It reminds us that progress is often born from the most immediate, tangible needs. We would love to hear which of these knightly creations surprised you the most. Share your thoughts in the comments below, and if you enjoyed this deep dive into history's hidden gems, be sure to subscribe for more journeys into the past. Thank you for exploring the lasting impact of knightly ingenuity.